Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
I wonder what percentage of the world are on their wild card.
Feels like everybody.
Really?
Yeah, it does when I look on Twitter, yeah.
I ain't been on the old Twitter very much. I think it's the safest way to be. But a lot of people are on their wild card, and that's probably why the people's poll today was this. Do you want to give everyone, as usual, the three options that we put out and what one?
I shall. Before we do that, can I say something gets out of my chest that's really annoying me? People begging for this Cristiano Ronaldo price. Like, it's coming. Just they've said until United make it official. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
Which United, just before we started recording on Tuesday, when United have made it official. And I think it's worth saying when we're recording because it's deadline day. So no doubt by the time this goes out, something's going to be out of date. Someone signed someone or something that's going to make you think differently. The three choices for the people's poll were Champions League Fantasy, which is something we're going to be covering on game weeks where there is Champions League football on our Patreon network, and we're going to cover that for patrons today. We're also going to be covering for them the updated quarantine issues going into game week 4, because it is fast moving in terms of who's going to be a problem, who's flying for how many games, yada yada yada,
and so on. Yeah.
But what we'll be covering for you today is wildcard drafts and the idea of what we would do if we were on wildcard, because me and you are not.
Nope.
Definitely not going to be. I don't think there's any bar mass COVID outbreak or injuries or something that would force us to do it. Why are we not doing it? I guess probably first point to start. Why are we not wildcarding?
First things first is always fixing problems, right? So at the moment in my squad, I only have 2 flagged players, and even of those 2 flagged players, one of them is due back after the break, because that's Ben White because of a COVID situation. So the only player that I've got flagged is Ben Foster, and he's my 4.0 backup fodder goalkeeper. So I'm not going to pull out my wild card to fix that problem. Secondly, captaincy cover. And I think the situation with Antonio being in form means that we have other captaincy alternatives to a big premium that was Salah and Fernandes. And I've got Salah, who's a fullback anyway. So Antonio for game week 4, Salah for 5 and 6. I've got my captaincy coverage. I don't need to worry about that. So I'm not tearing up my team for that. Thirdly, fixture swings. I don't think now is necessarily the right time. I think Leeds now go into a decent run.
From
Wolves,
5.
Wolves start a decent run, but they're not the big hitters. And I've got one Leeds
Arsenal.
already.
Stop laughing. Arsenal.
Well, I've got one already in Ben White, and I've got one Leeds already in Ayling. So what I'm going to do, wildcard to get 2 steaming? No, thank you. The one team there's 2 teams that I don't own any players from right now is Chelsea and Man City that are a concern. Now, with Man City, who, what, why, where, when, because it could be any one of their players. And so I'm only going to get one from City, and I might just go cheap with Ferran Torres, and that might just be my free transfer to get out of Harvey Barnes. So I don't need a wild card to do that. And Chelsea, it's not quite time for their fixture swing. That's in, 7 or 8, isn't it? So with that in mind, what am I wildcarding for? I'm not jumping on any bandwagons. Do I need to build up value? Not really. I don't think so. And when I weigh all of that up, it's not the right time for me.
Okay, interesting. I think for myself, what most people do is why do people wildcard now? I think a lot of it is value fear. So you're losing 7, 8 players who are about to drop in Brighton. You suddenly think, my God, I'm going to have a squad of 99.5. I think, people who've got that genuine fear, it's justifiable to pull the trigger to kind of reverse that and put yourself back to a squad that's got 101 million or so. Outform players, problem issues. If I look at my squad, I'd say I've got 7 issues currently, which is quite sizable. But actually, when I drill into that more, 3 of them are bench fodder, not going to play problems in Ben Foster, Constantino Tsimikas. And Zakiri of Brighton, who very conveniently decided to disappear to the Bundesliga on loan for the season
Oh,
yesterday. So,
mate,
yeah,
ouch.
well, it's not an ouch. He was going to sit third on the bench every week anyway, but I probably would have bought a different 4.5 if I'd known that was going to happen last week.
Of course, bad luck.
But in my actual team, problems. Biggest first problem to identify is I've got no goalkeeper in game week 4. We know Emi Martinez is going to play in Argentina's first 2 games. He's definitely not going to play for Aston Villa at Chelsea. Done. Factual. You have no goalkeeper. That's the first issue I need to fix. So I can look back and say, okay, hindsight, regret. Wish I hadn't started with Emi Martinez. Wish I'd started with someone cheaper. But what I need to do immediately is fix that. Ricardo Pereira is a problem, subject to injury status, having gone off injured against Norwich. Now, if he's potentially going to be back for game week 5, I'm not that bothered because I'm going to be missing him playing Manchester City and I'll use my bench to cover that. Harvey Barnes, I would like to move on, obviously, having done nothing in the first 3 fixtures. Timing-wise seems right because I've got Man City next, but a little bit like in Pereira's case, the fixtures after 4 are not too bad for a little bit. And Danny Ings is an issue, because we've come out of Villa's good 3 fixtures, but Danny Ings has proven he can score in big games in the past.
Correct.
So if I have to carry Ings and Barnes into game week 4, and for me, I'm already looking at game week 4 and just thinking, I've had a very good start, survive. Why do I want to go and break up my team? Because people would look at Jack Harrison and go, he's done nothing for you yet, James, and go, yeah, you're right. He's also going to be a brilliant little differential from game week 5. Although they are apparently signing Daniel James, Leeds United. So I need to monitor that, but I'll be speaking to Andy Martin personally later today for Thursday's clash to correspondence.
I think that deal is going to go through, Daniel James.
Yes, it's going to happen,
million.
yep.
Interestingly, all of my midfielders and attackers have had a change in price.
Okay.
All of them. Defenders, only one has had a price drop. That's Ben White. My defenders and goalkeeper, no price changes. But all of my midfielders and attackers, Tony and Harvey Barnes, Ivan Toney and Harvey Barnes have gone down. Barnes went down before he was playing Norwich, mate. I had to stomach that. And Ivan Toney's gone down and then went and returned after he went down. So those 2 I can stomach as price drops. Every other player's gone up in value. So yeah, even Yves Bissouma is now 4.6 instead of 4.5. I guess because he's the highest point scoring 4.5 after his goal in 8-pointer in game week 2. So yeah, I've had price rises across them. So value is not such an issue for me with the decisions that I'm making right now. And I've got 2 free transfers because I rolled 2 million in the bank. Happy to take a -4 if I really wanted to. Therefore, no wildcard.
Yeah, I'm probably not. I mean, in terms of value, I've lost on Barnes and Harrison. I'm probably likely to lose a little bit more on Harvey Barnes before I get rid of him, because I think the priority for me is going to be to fix Martinez and Pereira. And having reflected on what we recorded yesterday, I think, yeah, possibly Sarr of Wolves to replace Martinez. And rather than coming down on Pereira to Ben White, which generally is where I'd go, because he's going to hit 4.3 by the time game week 4 comes around, I think. I might just go straight to Rudiger now, which possibly means if I make that decision now, I'm possibly not wildcarding in game week 7, because then I'm just looking to add the 2 Chelsea players probably in game week 7 itself, which favouritism right now would probably be Mount and Lukaku. But it means going at the moment, no Kane, Lukaku or Ronaldo, probably till game week 7, as I said, then Lukaku, then perhaps Kane in game week 12. And suddenly in my head, I'm not wildcarding for quite a while, am I? That's where I'm beginning to lean.
I'm definitely not wildcarding now. I can see myself in game week 7 or 8, probably around then, pulling the trigger. But it's so dependent on what happens in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We already know transfer deadline day is going to be mental today. With transfers already happening that you mentioned, James, Vlasic coming to West Ham. We're signing a new left back. I mean, what does that mean for Aaron Creswell all of a sudden? Or are we switching to a back 3? There's going to be other transfers that are coming in as well. We don't know how Ronaldo's going to settle at Manchester United, what position he's going to play. What does that do to Mason Greenwood for you?
Ronaldo's going to play up front.
I think come game week 7 or 8, I think with most teams we'll have a good idea and enough information to say, right, okay, now's the time to steam into certain teams and certain players. But not right now for me.
Is there a case to say with the window shutting that everyone's going to have that information now?
of who's where, yes, but not who's going to play, how they're going to set up and stuff.
No, things like that Tagliafico's who you're talking about,
Yeah.
potentially going to West Ham from Ajax. I mean, yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know.
When you've got Masuaku as well.
Exactly. And Masuaku's a good wing back. He's not necessarily a good fullback.
Well, no, but he's a good understudy in any case. But at the moment, you ain't playing wing backs.
No. But then, what does that mean for if we were to switch to a back three, for example? When we played a back three, Creswell was the left-sided centre back, but now we've got Zuma, Dawson, and Ogbonna. I'd have those three as centre backs over Creswell. So there is a number of questions. The reason I was talking about my price drops and price rises in midfield and attack was around this building value. I don't know if an international break's the best time, maybe, to start building value.
It's always overhyped in terms of it's 2 weeks. Basically, once we get beyond the next... Bless you,
Excuse
Sis.
me.
Great. I'm going to have to quarantine for a while.
Yeah, no, sneezing.
Once you get past the next couple of days and the deadline's shut, probably from Wednesday, Thursday this week up until Wednesday, Thursday next week, there ain't going to be a lot of price changes.
No, exactly. So leave it be. If you've put together a wildcard draft, and so have I.
Yep.
Do you want to go position by position, or do you want to just name your squad and I'll name mine?
No, I think we'll probably go for individually. So I've done 2, which is dependent a little bit on Roberto Firmino. And the reason to say that is there's reports last night saying that could be out till Christmas time, possibly. Like he could have ruptured it badly like Kane did in January 2020. I find that unlikely because of how Firmino walks off the pitch in comparison to how Harry Kane did that day at Southampton. And reports this morning now seem to suggest it's not that bad and it's probably a couple of weeks. But if Liverpool don't buy today, and I suspect if the Firmino news is bad, they will. There's a couple of players have been linked with. If they don't buy and Firmino's out for a while, obviously the appeal of Diogo Jota goes through the roof, right? Has to. So I've done 2 drafts kind of based on that, i.e. one with Jota, one without.
Always doing extra homework, man.
Well, it's the way I play. So goalkeeper-wise, I'll go through the first one, Sarr and Steer. And the reason I'd go Steer as the backup goalkeeper is every chance he's getting a couple of games for Villa in the next couple of weeks. And if he was to pull off a shocking clean sheet at Chelsea, he'd just suddenly be popular as the default 4.0 who's got some points. Sarr, I like Wolves fixtures 4 to game week 14. I think that's likely what I'm probably going to end up doing with my own transfer to actually replace Emi Martinez. And when I come on to the rest of the team of what I've done, the first thing to say is 3 of the defenders are the same, 4 of the midfielders are the same, and 1 of the forward is the same. And
as your current squad.
Yeah, basically. So
that's the difficulty when we do this.
I wouldn't be going. There is that, and I wouldn't be going mad with it. So, I mean, personally, the way I've done with this, I've still got Jack Harrison, and that's because in the initial part of this, I probably couldn't afford Rafinha, but I might be booking in a transfer to buy Rafinha in game week 5. So, Ayling, Trent, and Shaw would stay for me, and I think Shaw is someone who, in the next few weeks, I would want to move on. But I think I'd still rather start with that than Rudiger. That could easily become Rudiger if I decide to change my mind. I put Ben White in at the moment, and that would be looking at playing him this coming game week against Norwich. Livramento in as a cheap budget player. And in midfield, still got Salah, Son, Greenwood, Harrison, who I all own, and add Damari Gray to it. Up front, I'd change Zakiri to Obafemi. I'd keep Antonio, obviously, and that would allow me to get Lukaku in. Now, the alternative I looked at from a wildcard perspective, Lukaku, I guess, could become Ronaldo.
So that's really set up as a 4-4-2.
Basically, well, no. 3-5-2, basically.
3-5-2. Mine's set up as a 3-4-3. Slightly different.
So the alternative one, which was obviously to fit Jota in, would have 3 up front, actually, because I think it just opens the doors. So instead, if I decided I'd have to have Jota, which I think if Firmino injury is serious, I probably would, I'd go Jota instead of Son, which would then open up the possibility of getting off Obafemi to Raul Jimenez. And then defensively, I'd be missing a little bit. So instead of Ben White, drop Ben White to Brandon Williams of Norwich. And in midfield, because I wouldn't need 5 playing midfielders anymore, instead of Damari Gray, I'd go Musa Sissoko currently as the fifth midfielder. And then that system would be looking at playing Luke Ayling every week, definitely. Whereas the other one is probably alternative, probably still looking at benching one of Ayling, White or Livramento every week. This would mean playing Luke Ayling nearly every week, which I'm happy to do with the run that they've got coming up, Leeds. So if I was on Wildcard now, my whole structure in terms of even people say, oh, what formation is best? Well, I'm dependent on one player there. I'm changing the whole formation depending on whether I'd want Jota or not, I think.
And look, Jota, as part of a front three for Liverpool, at his price in midfield, is almost a must-have. If Firmino's out till Christmas, I just think he'll tear it up. I am actually sitting a little smug with him in my team right now. I didn't, honestly, we recorded yesterday. I said I wish I'd have gone with Greenwood because I like Greenwood so much. But now the way the chips have fallen, Jota is a really interesting pick. I went with a slightly more spread approach than yours. Excuse me. And
I'd actually, just to say on that three up front, Rafinha instead of Harrison.
Right.
Would be affordable.
I wanted to cover myself off for at least 6 to 8 weeks without needing to make any too many drastic changes and give myself a number of options. So I actually had the same two goalkeepers as you, Sarr and Steer. For Steer, whacking any 4.0, I'm really not bothered about my bench.
So if you were wildcarding now, because you've got Sanchez, haven't you?
Yeah.
You'd go up.
I think I looked at this as a wild card as if I was starting from scratch, tear the whole thing up.
Because I think it's still kind of either or for me. I might still go Sanchez. Because I'm just not sure if I can justify the 0.5 extra that I might need.
Yeah. The reason I like Sarr is there's a number of other keepers at 5 million that I think are worth looking at. So Schmeichel is all right at 5. If you live at Leicester, can sort out their injuries at the back there. They'll get solid defensively.
It's not a position you want to plan in, though.
No,
like, if I go Sarr, that's it. I'm staying. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, I get that. But is there an off if the wheels come off for whatever reason? And I also think a West Ham goalkeeper, if we change the defence, then I think there might be some solidity coming back in there, hopefully. I like the fact that we're just buying a whole new defence because we keep leaking in goals. Then we've got defensively, I stuck with Trent. I can't see how I can live without him. Luke Ayling for the next few weeks is solid as you like as well. Livramento and Brandon Williams, bench fodder, but very good bench fodder. And they left me Rudiger as my third. So I'd play
very
Rudiger.
Similar thinking, isn't it?
Rudiger, Ayling and Trent would be my three at the back. And then Livramento and Brandon Williams can prop up the bench. My midfield, Bissouma would stay in there as a 4.5 for me.
You got the value in it as well,
I
so
have
you wouldn't
my
change it.
particular
Exactly.
team.
Yep.
And Salah stays for me. So this premium, who do you have as a premium, or who are your 3 premiums that you squeeze in? I only went with 2, if you don't count Trent as a premium. Salah and Harry Kane. And the reason I went Harry Kane is because I didn't get Heung-min Son. And also, because Harry Kane is the most expensive out of him, Ronaldo and Lukaku, Ronaldo asterisk probably, it's easy for me to move from Harry Kane to Lukaku and Ronaldo, whereas for you to go from Lukaku to Kane might be a little bit more difficult. So Kane is almost a placeholder as a premium striker. Insert any of the other 2 in if they start popping off, for example. So Salah and Kane would be my 2 premiums, which then would give me a midfield of Damari Gray as well, 5.5 decent value. Ferran Torres, assuming City don't buy a striker today, and Mason Mount gives me the Chelsea coverage. And then up top, alongside Harry Kane, Antonio's getting nowhere. And I'd put Bamford in right now on Wildcard with a view that I could go to... DCL is the player that I'd probably want longer term, but in the short 5 or 6 good fixtures that Leeds have, I'd actually take a punt on Bamford over DCL on Wildcard.
DCL is going to be a pain in the arse for those on Wildcard because he's pulled
his
out the
broken
England
toe
squad.
is a
But
pain.
the injury that he's pulled out the England squad apparently is different from the toe injury.
Right.
So
yeah, Bamford.
This is going to be a big headache for Sky as well.
Look, I mean, what I like about the wildcard squad there is it covers me off a bit of Chelsea with Mason Mount. He's playing week in, week out. I've got City coverage in there. I've got 2 Leeds who are on a great run in Ayling and Bamford. Antonio anytime. Kane's there as a placeholder that covers me off any other striker I want. Salah covers me off any other midfielder I want. Defence is solid. And I've got options with the goalkeeper at 5 million. So that's what I would play out. That actually, if you were to buy at today's prices, would be 99.9 million.
Okay.
So I would end up probably having an extra 500,000 with my current squad. I used my minus 56
that's
squad.
not a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah, because Torres to Jota,
one of the messages I always say about game week 1 is you will make mistakes. No doubt about it.
Barnes.
And to think the first draft I did really had Ferran Torres at the start, but yeah, I can't complain at where I'm at. I don't even look at it as a mistake. It's just not worked out.
Yeah.
Who knows? He might end up staying for me for another 3 or 4 weeks and do well. Ironically, we've had that before. Out of necessity, you end up keeping players because you can't get rid of them, and suddenly they do quite well. You remember Roberto Firmino in our first season? Was going to sell him, and then I couldn't, and then he went mental for about 5 or 6 game weeks. I forgot my point, Suj. Sorry.
Well, you're keeping Barnes. We're talking about mistakes in game week 1 and stuff. You do make mistakes in game
I think you're going to make mistakes now as well. It's still so early.
Of course.
You're not going to get a perfect 15, I don't think. So to mitigate that by leaving a little bit of money there is not necessarily a bad thing to do.
Exactly.
But I think the consciousness, and it's the same before game week 1, is I've got it, I'll spend it. I've got it, I'll spend it. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do if you can afford to do it. I must say, in the 2 that I did, I didn't budget for leaving money. I think one of them might have had 0.3 spare.
Yeah. Everyone's in very different situations now. The likes of Antonio, for example, now 7.9, mate. He's flying up in price. He's going to be 8 million before the next game week opens for sure. That's 500,000. Antonio.
Oh yeah.
500,000 in 4 game weeks is phenomenal.
This year hasn't had that kind of. I was thinking about players we've had in the past, like Timu Pukki, who it just flew, didn't it? Someone who was kind of under the mid-price, who everybody wanted. I was thinking about Etienne Capoue a few years back, actually, before we started doing the podcast.
Lundstrom went up quite high. He got to 4.9.
4.5 to about 5.3 in about 6 game weeks or so. I mean, if Antonio continues to do well in the next couple of weeks, he probably will soon be 8.2 or something.
But now it's a debate between where it was the debates of the 7.5s, and then you had Bamford and DCL up above. Antonio, Bamford, DCL, and then you're having a debate about Wilson or Watkins or Chris Wood or whoever else. So yeah, he's kind of separated himself out and pushed up a bracket in terms of debate.
One of the things I think we should touch on is structure a little bit, because the team that I went with Jota that had 3 up front, it does have some glaring holes in it, and one of the glaring holes I think is there's a gap in 5 million in the squad between Jota and Salah, and I do prefer having the Son
spread
as kind of the 2.5, if you will. I mean, you can captain Son versus Kane most game weeks. Given the choice, I nearly always would go with Kane, but Son would potentially cover you off some of that, wouldn't it? If you wanted to captain a Spurs player, like many might have this last game week. So I do like the idea of keeping someone in there around about Son, because if you go Jota and then suddenly Man City walk into 3 injuries and Riyad Mahrez really is going to play 4 or 5 game weeks in a row, I'd struggle to get there, wouldn't I? So also starting with Son would allow me to come down. If it's gone the other way and suddenly, Ronaldo's going to be 12.5 and I've started with Lukaku and I need to find that extra million, there's a different way of doing it.
Very few players in that bracket. I mean, let's say 8.5 to 10 million midfielders. So Son, Sancho, Havertz. Who else is at that price?
But someone will inevitably emerge suddenly.
Yeah.
Someone nearly always from kind of 8 to 10 million emerges. I mean, last year was Son, who was sort of 9.5, wasn't he? I think. Someone in and around there, 8 to 10, always comes out who you're not expecting, who's not in your plans. And I think at the moment, a lot of people will be looking at that midfield area, kind of 8 to the top boys, really, Salah and Fernandes and stuff, and not covering it off. And I'm not saying you have to, but you should be conscious of it, that something will evolve and you might need to. I mean, Kai Havertz kind of falls into that bracket, doesn't he? 8.3-ish.
He's 8.3 now.
He could definitely be the one, couldn't he?
Yeah, I'd love it. If he dropped to 8.1,
that's not
8.2.
far. Jota to Havertz, you can probably, or Greenwood to Havertz.
Manoeuvre it.
Yeah, exactly. If it's nearer the 9 bracket, or say you need to get back to Son, how are you? It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's the only one really in there at that price, I feel. As we said, kind of Sancho and stuff might develop. It's not there at the moment. So I think most people go without that. You just be conscious of that if it comes back around, how are you going to get there when you need to be jumping between the forwards? And on the premiums, what do you think? Because I'm kind of right now, one midfielder, one forward. It feels like that.
I don't want to make too many sacrifices elsewhere to get to it. 2.
Again, we should say we're recording this prior to price. What price do you think, Ronaldo?
12. In between Lukaku and Kane. I think he'll come in at 12.
I think it'd be 12.5.
Same as Kane.
Yeah.
Kane's not
anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if he's 13, but I think it'd be the same as Kane.
I think because of his age and how everyone's talking about how his game's changed and he's going to be a box striker and all this kind of stuff.
So
I think 12.
Jumping,
I wouldn't surprise. I mean, look, we know from 5 years of doing this that they always come in cheaper than we thought. So imagine if he came in at 11 or 11 and a half. It's a problem.
No, he won't be. He won't be. He's going to be too popular. I mean,
but they like it, don't they? They like doing it. They like making them that little bit cheaper, and everyone's like, oh.
No, with Ronaldo, I don't think they need to. Just globally, so many people are going to go and buy him.
Let me just check Twitter. Just to make sure that whilst we've been recording,
we haven't seen a price.
Haven't dropped a price because it would be typical of them to do it.
I'm going with 12.5. I think same as Kane, which interestingly, I've spoken about, and it's a deep thought away, and there's every chance of a wild card before it, but I've spoken about the idea of, say, Lukaku to Kane in game week 12. Now, at the moment, that's $1 million away, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to find that $1 million from somewhere. So, again, talking about maybe leaving money in the bank if you're thinking of going that way. Obviously, if you want to start with Ronaldo and then go to Lukaku, it goes in your favour, but that may well come back the other way. Jump in between Ronaldo and Salah and Fernandes, if that's what you want to do. Seems easier, doesn't it? Although there seems to be a lot of people who've already written off Bruno Fernandes. And I'm going the other way on this. I know I was Bruno at the start of the season and I still am. But as I said on the pod yesterday, I would not be selling him before Newcastle at home.
No.
And I think if I was wildcarding, I'd probably still start with him and look at moving it down, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see.
Mind you, I didn't.
No tweet from FPL.
I've said that. I haven't included him either of the squad I did. I went with Salah, so I guess I wouldn't.
Demarai Gray went up in price. He's 5.6 now.
Yes, that's true.
Cheeky.
Well, I'll tell you what, just briefly on that, I've gone a little bit colder on that yesterday because I just started thinking about the priority of, okay, Barnes to Gray obviously puts me money in the bank, but when I sit down and think about it and I start going, in terms of my structure and what I need immediately to cover me off, do I think Demarai Gray is going to be getting me more points than Antonio Rudiger? Short term, medium term and long term? And I think the answer is no.
Not. Probably
so
not.
I might just be better off getting a defender in immediately who I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm going to go to in game week 7. I'll do it now. And if I break it down and go Villa at home, it's fine. Tottenham away. Tottenham have been abysmal in fixtures against Chelsea over the last couple of years, though the manager has changed. But let's be honest, we're not expecting Tottenham to put 2 or 3 on the board against Chelsea, are we?
No.
If Tottenham were to win the game, what's the score going to be? I think we know at the moment, right? So I think Rudiger actually is not that bad for game week 5 as well. And Man City game week 6. And you go, oh, well, they played Man City 3 times in April and May and only conceded 1 goal across the 3 games. So how... And they're brilliant defensively, aren't they?
Amazing.
So it's more, I'm probably just thinking, with Chelsea defensively, if I just look too much at the fixtures and not taken enough account for the fact that, yeah, they're brilliant.
So good.
And it can be that way. If I start that way this week and then I've got Trent, Rudiger, Shaw for game week 4, I can always come down from Shaw when I want to move him on, when I want to start playing Alien from game week 5 or so. So I might just go straight to Rudiger, which probably means Barnes going to hang around and probably means no Demarai Gray for me. Because I think by that point, once I'm going to 5, if I'm going Rafinha, right. I think.
Interesting. For the ones who are patrons, we'll be looking at the Champions League and also the COVID situation on the Patreon pod for today. Tomorrow, James, we're back at Sky Fantasy Football. Player shortlists is what we're looking at. Who is going to make it onto the watch list? By then, the transfer deadline will be all wrapped up as well.
We're going to do a real heavy fixture analysis next Wednesday. This week, we're going to look at, deadline's done, transfers are done, what have we got, what players have we got from all 20 clubs that are of interest for us, and then we'll kind of piece it all together properly next week.
Indeed. Tomorrow for the patrons, we have Tottenham which will be wrapping up the top 2 in the Premier League. So if you want, like elite level football conversation.
The patrons are so vexed that Tottenham and West Ham are first and second, because many of them joined just to see our meltdowns about our clubs.
Tottenham is so good when both our clubs are doing crap, and it's so rubbish when we're doing well. But there's a lot of business, I think, to be done. You're buying a right back from Barcelona.
It looks like Emerson Royal from Barcelona. He's happening. Well, he only actually physically signed for Barcelona earlier this month.
No, but
actually,
in 2019 they did this like Real Betis, and then they did a 3-way swap deal. It was like, it's just weird. It just looks like, I looked at it, read it, and I still couldn't understand what has happened with the transfer. But right back on the way in, we might have a left back, another attacking midfield. We may as well call ourselves attacking midfielder FC, because all we seem to buy is attacking midfielders when we need other things, other players. But yeah, a lot to talk about in Tottenham tomorrow. Quiz on Thursday, and wrap up on Friday. Other than that, thank you for tuning into today's show. If you want to become a patron and support the show, don't do it today. Don't do it. Do it tomorrow, because it's the first of the month tomorrow.
You may as well wait till tomorrow. If you do it today, I will refund the money so you're not charged in consecutive days.
Yeah, fine. So if you want to sign up today, and you'll get billed again tomorrow, but James will refund tomorrow. So just crack on and join us on Patreon, as mentioned on previous shows. Cash League, Slack channel, extra podcasts, a whole load of fun and games.
The deadline day chat has been launched for one day only, and it's alive today.
Oh, mate, it'll be fun. And of course, stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Remember, play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.